In 2019, I ran the Chevron Houston Marathon, and to this day, it's still my fastest marathon ever. Probably the most fun I ever had in a marathon. But as you can see from this video, I was absolutely stunned and shocked when I crossed the finish line, which doesn't seem like is usually the case, right? I feel like we've all had a day where we kind of stood at the finish line and we're like, well, that wasn't what I wanted. I ran a 2:15 in Houston, and by all accounts, that could be considered a pretty decent success for me. But how much credit do I really deserve for that effort? Should I feel super accomplished? Or did I kind of just get lucky and stumble into this super fast race performance? One of the things I love so much about running is how much control we have over our progress. But when it comes to race day, there are a lot of things that we just don't have control over, like weather or maybe illness or stress at home or work. Issues on the race course, right? Like I once had to stay in the corral an hour extra because there was like an accident on the course they were trying to clear. With so many variables outside of our control, evaluating a race performance needs to go deeper than just finish time or place. In fact, there's a much better way to evaluate race day performances, one that's better for your self-esteem, one that'll help us find more joy in running, and also one that'll help us find genuine ways to improve in future races. Later in this video, I also want to break down my 2019 Houston Marathon performance and work to evaluate whether my effort was worthy of praise or just plain old luck. But first, let me take you back to my university days. There was one time that I missed a test for a track meet and I had to go to my professor's office to make it up. So I sat there, just him and I, and took this super simple multiple choice test. And the one thing about it was that I definitely didn't read the book that the test was about. So I thought, what the heck, I'll take the test. If I get a couple points from guessing, it's better than a 0, right? I hand it in, I get up to leave, and he's like, whoa, hold on, I'll just quickly grade it here and then you'll have your grade. And I was mortified because I definitely did not want to sit there and watch as he realized that I didn't read the book. He quickly grades it, turns around and says, 17 out of 20. Not bad. And I walked out of there feeling like $1,000,000 because somehow I had been super successful. What I didn't realize at that time was that I had done everything wrong. But I walked out of there telling myself I'm some kind of genius, right? I was like, I must have some kind of a knack for just correctly discerning answers to multiple choice questions that I know nothing about. But how well do you think that strategy worked for me the next time that I chose to use it? You can probably figure that out. When assessing my test, I would have learned way more if I had evaluated it differently. Instead of looking at the final score, like the grade I got, I should have looked at the process and preparation that went into getting that grade. Like, did I study? Did I do the practice questions? Did I read the book? Right? And if the answer to this is no, then it's probably fair to make an assessment that I kind of botched that test, despite still getting a really good grade on it. When there are variables out of our control, or even a lot of luck in a certain situation, a self-assessment should not be a function of what you accomplished. Instead, it should be a function of how you went about accomplishing it. When we look back at my university test from this perspective, it's pretty easy to see what a fool I was. When judging a race performance, it's not about the time you achieved, but how you went about achieving it. That's what matters. Because we all know that you can have a crap training cycle and a great race, or a really great training cycle and a crap race. There's a lot of things that are out of our control, but what is important is assessing the process that got us there. With running, evaluating the process means reviewing the training plan. So, judge yourself by the quality of your training plan as well as how well you implemented it. So, if you set a goal, created a plan, and followed steps towards achieving it, congratulate yourself. And if you didn't have a plan or maybe weren't able to implement it, take a look at what it was that derailed you. Look for those things and see if you can find ways to better adhere or better comply with it in the future. So to properly judge my Houston performance, we would have to look at my training plan leading up to it. So here's my training plan. And not off to a great start here. To be entirely honest with you, I didn't even have a training plan going into Houston. In fact, I bumped into Tyler Jaman while out running one morning, and he told me he was running. And this was maybe like 15 or 16 weeks out from the race, I believe. And I honestly signed up for it, and then I just straight up copied his workouts. I knew he was being coached by Lendo with Minnesota Distance Elite, and whatever he did each week for workouts, I just looked at his Strava, and I did the same thing later in the day. I honestly would not give this performance a high grade, certainly not an A or a B, and maybe not even a C. Honestly, I did a lot of things very poorly, much like that quiz I took back in university. But for some reason, everything just went really well for me that day, and I ended up having a stupendous amount of success. But judging by the final result and not the process would give me the wrong idea of how to prepare for the next race that I wanted to run. And here's the thing, right? A lot of runners base their self-worth off of race day results. And this can lead to a constant crisis of issues with self-esteem. But if we can learn to focus instead on analyzing the process, right? How favorable of a situation did we create for success, right? Essentially, how well did we adhere to that training plan? And if we can do that, we can find ways to build a healthier relationship with our self-esteem, as well as find more joy and more success through running. If you get nothing else from this video other than the acknowledgement that assessment should be based on the training, the process, and not the final result. If you make no changes at all, no training plans, no reviewing your plans, at least you'll have an understanding of why you seem to be so inconsistently rewarded on race days with your efforts. If you do decide that you want to start using a training plan and you don't know where to start, I have two really great suggestions for you. One is Victoria from Run for PRs, a good friend of mine. I'll put a link down below in the description to her coaching business, and my other friend, Danny Docherty from Docherty Coaching. I will also put a link down below to his coaching business.